Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over our cash envelope stuffing for this coming week. So I have two different cash allocations, and I will be explaining why I have two piles of money this week instead of just one. The way our cash worked out, the way our envelopes worked out for last week was a little bit unplanned for, a little bit different, and I went into some pretty detailed explanation on my previous video, kind of explaining to you guys why our envelopes didn't work out quite the way I had planned them to. So here's the recap that I did. Here is this week's budget, and here is this week's schematic. Now this week's budget, I have $313 allocated toward variables. So zooming in, you can see that, $313. And that's because we had a little bit extra up here, and I decided this week to go down to a zero-based budget. So we're in my Happy Planner Notes notebook, the cover I had made myself. We're gonna get into our categories for the week, which aren't very many. And I am going to stuff the envelopes with the appropriate amount. So let's do first things first. All right, up here I'm going to write expense. And then what we are budgeting. Now, if I would have thought ahead just 2 more seconds, I would have realized that I don't need these other 2 columns in the planning phase. So when we're stuffing, we don't need to actually have an actual column and what the difference was. We need that in our reconciliation schematic. So I'm going to ignore these other 2 columns. Down here is where I would put what we budgeted, here what we actually spent, and here what was left, or, if anything. So I am just going to concentrate on these 2 columns for this video because that is really all we can do right now because we haven't gotten into the week yet. So the first thing we're going to do is budget for dining out. Let's do that one first this week. And we had planned to put some extra in here, and we had some extra left over from what we allocated for bills and things like that in this week's check. So we are going to be putting, how much? I budgeted $50 for this week because we had some plans, 2 different nights with friends, and the remaining that we had to bring our budget down for the week was $8. So I am going to put $58 into the envelope. Now that doesn't sound like a lot of money to go out for 2 nights with friends, but honestly, the places we go, they're so inexpensive, and they're still so much fun, So we live in a smaller town, and eating out and just the cost of living is probably not as expensive as what some of you may be experiencing in bigger cities, and things like that. So that's kind of my explanation. So let's take $50 and $58. I mean, talk about being exact. Holy moly. So 55, 56, 57, and 58. Now, I did mention this last week in my video. I thought it was kind of funny because when I go through the drive-thru at the bank, as you can see, $58. When I go through the drive-thru at the bank, I'm really, really specific about the money that I'm taking out and in what denominations. And I was like, oh, I bet, the tellers, the bank employees probably are like rolling their eyes about it. And I got some funny comments, especially there was one person who said she worked as a teller, and that is not anything unusual or anything that they get irritated by, but she said I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but it was actually kind of cute. But anyway, so I got $58 into our dining out. So that is category number 1 and done. So next we are going to go, let's just do John's miscellaneous envelope. And honestly, I'm not doing a register because I've talked about this before. he will not play along and do an expense tracker. So I've got 30 bucks in here for him, and that is going to be stuffed, and he will take that out promptly and give me back the envelope. So that is just for me, I guess. So John, miscellaneous, it's going to be 30. Now we do have a pretty big cookout coming up. We celebrate my mom's birthday, John's birthday, and my niece is graduating from nursing school. So we have like a lot to celebrate in one family get together. And so I'm definitely going to be taking out some extra money for that starting next week, maybe. I don't know, or maybe the week after. But anyways, not for today. So for myself, I'm gonna write Aaron, miscellaneous. I am putting in $30, like I usually do, plus what was left. That's why I have a second pile of cash here. What was left from our cash envelopes last week. So instead of putting this back into the bank or into savings, I have 28, 25, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and 42. I had $42 left over from our cash envelopes. And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put that in my envelope for this week, just in case we end up needing it. So that is my plan. That's my plan. And I feel like I have some spending money. I don't have any clothing envelopes or anything like that for this week. So this is kind of nice to have a little bit extra. And let me see where my envelope is. So $30 plus 42 equals $72. So Aaron, miscellaneous, is going to be 30 plus 42 equals $72. Pretty nice. All right, so like next, let's go for our groceries. And we're gonna do $100. So that's pretty typical now. And I got grocery envelope, and I usually ask the bank just for a $100 bill because we spend, you spend quite a bit of money on groceries, so I don't need to have small bills or anything like that. So let's make a register for that. So groceries. And we usually go to Aldi and Walmart before we go to Giant Eagle. Giant Eagle is kind of like our last resort, just because it is an expensive grocery store. I mean, their prices are really in line with like Whole Foods. Sometimes their prices are higher than Whole Foods. I really don't know where they get off, but whatever. All right, so gas for this week, fuel, is going to be $80. And usually John uses the majority of that. Let's see what we have. 20, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. All right. So $80 for that. Well, okay. I already wrote that down. All right. So get the gas envelope and put that in there. And I'll put that in there. Honestly, I don't even know. I mean, I'm doing so good on my gas usage lately. I don't even know if I'll need to put any in. I think I have more than a half a tank. So gas was $80. And then lastly, dog food at $15. There is a 1 there. All right, so let's use a little register for that. And we have dog food at $15. Perfect. I did mention to you guys I still have some cash envelopes left if you're interested in purchasing any. They're basic, so I kept them pretty inexpensive, included the shipping. I do have an entire video showing the sets that I made. All right, so let's see what we have and add all this up. Did I include everything? I think I did. Okay. Hopefully these numbers crunch. Okay, so we started out with, let me just write this down as a side note, $313 that we allocated from this week's paycheck. And we had $42, was it? I believe. Was it 42 bucks left over from our cash envelopes last week? So that's $5. So $355 was what we had to work with. Add all this up and make sure that's what it comes to. So $58 plus 30 plus 72. That 72 included 30 typical and 42 extra from our cash envelopes, plus 100, plus 80, plus 15. $355, $355. So our total that we budgeted all together for this week is $355. So some of you may be asking, like, what are you doing as far as your dog? What are you doing for Thina? Her needle biopsy, I explained that she didn't have her surgery, and she probably isn't for the foreseeable near future. If you're interested in my lengthy explanation as why, that is in my previous envelope, our cash envelope recap from last week. But we are probably going to be doing a needle biopsy for her, which is probably, I don't know, around $150 or less. Her lump on her shoulder has really shrunk just unbelievably. And so we don't want to put her through any unnecessary procedures and anesthesia because she's such a little dog. So if we do anything, we're going to go for the needle biopsy, but we're going to give it another week and see if it changes even more, because this is very new. That popped up overnight and we didn't really give it much time before we had her right at the vet. That's how we are. We're kind of paranoid like that. So we're going to give it probably about another week to keep an eye on it and then assess from there. So that's my whole video. That's what's going on. So her money, we'll be putting that back into the bank for now, just because I don't want to carry it around and I don't really need it at this exact moment. So we'll see what happens, and you know, keep saying our prayers for her and keep my fingers crossed that she doesn't have to go through anything invasive. But that's it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed going over everything with you. I love doing this system. I love doing these videos because I feel like it really keeps me on track, and I don't know, I feel like I'm prepared for the week. So thank you so much for spending this time with me.